In 2022, there were 668 people on the world's billionaires list, which is a decrease from the 755 people who were on the list in 2021. The combined wealth of these individuals was $12.7 trillion, which is a decrease from the record $13.1 trillion. There are 5 nations that create the most billionaires overall. In this video, we'll talk about top 10 countries with the most billionaires. Elon Musk is now the richest person in the world, surpassing everyone else to claim the number 1 spot on the list of billionaires. Here is a list of nations that have the most billionaires. Before we start our video, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon if you want to hear more from us. Let's begin. Number 5. Germany. As the majority of the nation's revenue comes from the sale of manufactured items, including equipment, autos, chemical goods, and metals, the country of Germany is a world leader in the production of solar panels and wind turbines. According to Forbes, Pete Heister and Carl Albrecht Jr. were the richest persons in Germany in 2023, with assets totaling $34.5 billion US dollars. This ranking was based on the individual's combined fortune. There was a minimum of $5 billion in assets held by each of Germany's top 25 richest individuals. Despite the fact that Germany has the largest GDP in Europe at the moment, this does not indicate that every single person in Germany is worth $1 billion. In point of fact, the typical pay is somewhere in the neighborhood of 43,500 euros. Although there has been a general upward tendency in wages in Germany from the year 2000, there has been a decrease in that trend after 2019. This is most likely attributable to the COVID-19 epidemic as well as the recent inflation. Number 4. India. There are a lot of billionaire families in India. The majority of these families had become billionaires in the previous 3 decades, which coincided with the period in which the economic growth rate in India was higher than it had ever been. These families have positioned themselves to reap the rewards of the recent economic expansion. Forbes magazine conducts an annual analysis of wealth and assets and uses that data to construct and publish a list of the wealthiest people in India ranked by their net worth. As of January 2023, India has 166 billionaires, putting it in 3rd place globally after only the United States and China in terms of wealth. Mukesh Ambani, whose Reliance Industries is India's most valuable company, maintained his position as Asia's richest person and the 10th richest person in the world with a net worth of $90.7 billion despite a modest 7% increase in his wealth. This places him 10th on the list of the world's richest people. Gautam Adani, a billionaire in the infrastructure and commodities industries, has just become Asia's 2nd richest person after adding about $40 billion to his wealth. He is only slightly behind Anil Ambani. Both the Ambani family and the Adani family have stakes in green energy projects that are projected to total multiple billions of dollars over the course of the next decade or so. The prosperous technology industry in the nation brought in a record income of $200 billion during the most recent fiscal year. As a result, the wealth of IT entrepreneur Shiv Nadar increased by 22%, and he continued to hold the position of the 3rd richest person in the country. During the time when India was working feverishly to safeguard its inhabitants against the coronavirus, vaccine tycoon Cyrus Poonawala's Serum Institute of India, which is the largest manufacturer of COVID-19 vaccines in the country, set new records for sales and profitability. As a result of these extraordinary earnings, Poonawala virtually quadrupled his fortune, taking it to $24.3 billion and vaulting him 4 spots to the position of No. 4. The rise in the price of steel drove matriarch Savitri Jindal into the top 10 Indians this year. She is one of 13 Indian women billionaires on the list. This year's list of the richest Indians also includes a record number of women. One of the 29 new Indian faces is Falguni Nayar, a former banker who rose to become the wealthiest woman in the nation via her own efforts following the November offering of her beauty and fashion firm, NewYorkCa.com. Number 3. China. China is still in 3rd place with a total of 607, which includes Hong Kong and Macau. The supply chain and production in China have been disrupted by intermittent outbreaks of the COVID-19 virus, while at the same time, Chinese heavyweight listings have fallen due to worries around the control of technology businesses and Beijing's connections with Russia. Colin Huang, previous chairman of Pinduoduo, Ma Huatang, chair of digital giant Tencent Holdings, and Jack Ma, founder and CEO of Alibaba, are examples of some of China's most notable financial losses. China is still the nation with the third most billionaires, despite having 87 fewer billionaires than it had last year. The country's 539 billionaires have a combined wealth of about $2 trillion. The number of billionaires in China increased by more than 60% between the years 2020 and 2021, growing from 387 to 626, as reported by Forbes magazine's 2021 World's Billionaires list. This is in comparison to an increase of 18% in the number of billionaires in the United States during the same time period, which saw that number rise from 615 to 724. The astounding rise of the Chinese economy as a whole is paralleled in many respects by the increase in the number of Chinese billionaires. China's gross domestic product, GDP, per capita increased from $951 to $12,000 between the years 2000 and 2021, representing an increase of approximately 50% in just the most recent 6 years alone. It is also noteworthy that the number of people who use the internet has increased from 8.9 million in the year 2000 to more than 900 million now, and that mobile phone penetration among China's 1.4 billion population is almost at the level of being completely attained. Number 2. Russian Federation. The conflict that Vladimir Putin started in Ukraine, the expense of the sanctions that were placed on the Russian elite, and the weakening of the currency all took a toll on the wealth of the billionaires in Russia. 117 Russians made it into the list of the world's billionaires that was published by Forbes in 2022, but this year there are only 83 Russians on the list. The combined wealth of Russia's surviving billionaires is estimated to be $320 billion, which is a staggering $263 billion lower than it was 1 year ago. Since this time last year, each of these billionaires has lost an average of 27% of their fortune, which is equivalent to a loss of $2 billion. There were 6 business magnates whose fortunes fell by tens of billions of dollars. Leonid Michelson, $10.9 billion, Alexei Mordashov, $15.9 billion, Gennady Timchenko, $10.7 billion, Vagit Alekperov, $14.4 billion, and Suleiman Karimov, $11.4 billion. Tatiana Bakalchuk's fortune fell by the same amount. The year 2022 saw the fall from billionaire status for 35 Russians who had held that title the previous year. Oleg Tinkov, a Russian financier, and Arkady Valas, a technology giant, are two of the most noteworthy people to leave the company. Denis Sverdlov, founder of the London-based electric vehicle (EV) startup Arrival, and Igor Kulkov, one of the early partners in the Moscow-based pharmaceutical company Farmstandard and now an investor in CMR Surgical, a maker of robot surgeons that raised $600 million in funding in 2021, are the only 2 new Russian citizens to become billionaires in the past year. Number 1. United States. The United States of America is a large and prosperous country, but it also has a very high level of inequality. This means that a very small percentage of the country's wealth is held by a very wealthy elite, which is a proportion that is larger than what is considered normal for a wealthy democracy. Whether high levels of inequality are something to be proud of is a whole other topic. The United States is home to more than a 25% share of the world's billionaires. In spite of the COVID-19 epidemic that occurred in 2020, which caused a decline in the number of billionaires, this statistic returned and increased once again in 2021. The United States, which is still the top nation in the world when it comes to the number of billionaires, now has a record 735 billionaires. This is an increase from last year's total of 724 billionaires. The combined wealth of America's billionaires is now estimated to be $4.7 trillion, which is an increase over the previous year's estimate of $4.4 trillion. It is believed that Elon Musk, an American, has a net worth of $219 billion, making him the wealthiest person in the world. 8 of the top 10 richest persons in the world are also American. That is it for today's video. Give it a thumbs up if you find this video useful and informative. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell for upcoming future alerts. See you in the next video.